Charli XCX, Noah Kahan, and Phoebe Bridgers are saving rock and roll. I'm Dave, I'm here with Andrew, and you're listening to BV Weekly. Hacky sack is back. Andrew's back. Andrew is actually hacky sacking right now, which is why Andrew's put down that hacky sack.
Charli XCX, Noah Kahan, and Phoebe Bridgers are doing what?
Saving rock and roll.
You're going to have to explain that one to me.
I don't know. It's just a catchy intro because we're about to talk about all those people and their relation to rock and roll right now. And as soon as you stop hacky sacking, do you think the resurgence of hacky sacking is related to the popularity of Noah Kahan?
Is this a reference that's going over my head?
So if you haven't heard yet, like, do you even read the New York Times? Hacky sacking is back.
Did it ever die though on like college campuses?
I can't say for sure, but it's
true.
And I don't know if Chaotic Good is actually behind this, but like people are hacky sacking again. And this actually made one of my group chats before the New York Times knew about it. Our friend Joey's kid was like going crazy, making him find a hacky sack. And he let me know that hacky sacks are all the rage now.
Wow.
This is not a child who is into fish or anything like that. And then
I was going to say, I definitely associate it with hippies, which is also why I associate it with college freshmen. Because, you know, you're
totally,
like
but
opening your mind. You got your Pink Floyd poster on the wall and you're playing hacky sack in the quad. I just assume every generation of college freshmen did that.
True, but these are younger than college kids. And I mean, at some point when hacky sack first came around, when was that? 90s? I don't even know. But I think it was bigger than just college. You know, it was like Cabbage Patch Kids or Labubu's for a more modern reference. But I think I didn't read the article, and
I'm off the dome right now. I don't even know where we would be talking about this.
From what I'm hearing, everyone wants a hacky sack, but it's also, maybe it's World Cup related, because also hacky sacks are kind of also a soccer thing. If you're like juggling your soccer ball, and no, there's like a soccer store in Atlantic Ave here. They sell hacky sacks. Well, wait, before we keep talking about Noah Kahan and rock and roll, well, this is still rock and roll. We need to announce that Brooklyn Vegan is proud to present Swervedriver, celebrating 35 years of their album Raise on tour this year. We just announced this tour. You're probably not going to get tickets on our pre-sale, which is happening right now as we record this, but tickets will be on sale by the time you hear this. Shoegaze veterans, legends, Swervedriver, celebrating the 35th anniversary of their debut album Raise. They're playing it on tour. Dates are announced. Go check BrooklynVegan.com or our Instagram. It kicks off in August. There's 2 legs of the tour. They're starting in August in Massachusetts. They continue the tour in December on the West Coast. They will be hitting New York City here at Music Hall of Williamsburg, and right over the river in Jersey City at White Eagle Hall. Yeah, go check that out. We're happy to be helping out on this one. And
I was really happy when I heard they were doing this, because to me, I think like 80% of the current sort of grungy shoegaze bands, I just think this sounds like Swervedriver. And I just think that it's like the perfect time for Swervedriver to just go celebrate Raise. I mean, I kind of like Mezcal Head more, and I'm sure that I think they probably have done tours for that one and probably will again. But like Raise in particular, for sure, just sounds so current if like you don't know it and you listen to the new shoegaze stuff. I feel like this one in particular, even more so than some of the bigger shoegaze bands, just feels like really kind of like what's happening now. So I'm hoping it kind of gets like a second wind.
Yeah, you would think it's like, all right, I'm actually going to see Hum this weekend. They're headlining 2 nights, super sold out at Brooklyn Paramount. Much bigger than any of the venues Swervedriver is playing on this tour, which is...
Well, those are also festivals, to be fair.
Right, because it's
also Chapter House and Nothing and all these big bands. Yeah,
Swirlies is playing the night.
Apples to apples.
And Failure, who I just saw the other night, they packed Le Poisson Rouge. Actually, that's about a size venue that Swervedriver are playing on this tour. But And Failure are coming back to play Warsaw though. So Failure are doing pretty good right now. I think this new album is doing well, and I know they've been kind of important in the heavy shoegaze thing for at least, since they started doing it in the 90s, but like the resurgence, would you say, was like 10 years ago or so?
Yeah, it was like 15 even. Yeah, 15. I mean, Hum, Failure, and Swervedriver would all be like absolute canon for specifically like the heavier, grungier side of shoegaze. So nice little trifecta that you can see all three. And although Failures, as we kind of talked about, I think, or you talked about without me, I can't remember, the new Failure record is not that at all, whereas Swervedriver is celebrating a record that is extremely that.
Right. I like the new Failure record, by the way.
Yeah.
But they, and the song, seeing them perform songs off it were great. They sounded huge. They were great.
I went to the Hum and Failure tour back in 2015.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. And the most common band t-shirt in the audience was Deftones.
You were supposed to say Swervedriver, but that makes sense. Yeah.
No, I just remember it being so funny because like I think a lot of Hum and Failure's success came from being name dropped by Deftones, and then they toured together, and then I went and it was like, oh, these are all Deftones fans. And that was also before Deftones were like the like cool band that they are now to young people and stuff. So it was just it lives in my brain as a funny moment.
So full circle to the point I was trying to make. To see Deftones now, you have to go to an arena, but you can see Swervedriver in 500 cap clubs across the United States this year. So go get your tickets. And what else is happening? Charli XCX is talking about rock, is putting out rock. Should we talk about Charli XCX first?
Let's talk about Charli XCX.
All right.
So the song came out the morning our last episode went live, and you said like off air to me, you were like, oh man, I wish we would have had would have been able to have heard this before the episode went live. So it could have, but I'm kind of glad it didn't, because discourse happened, obviously, and then Charli finally responded just before we recorded this episode. And so now we have even more context. I'm glad we have kind of this response from Charli that we can talk about, because my first impression when I heard the song, let's back up. Before she even released the song, before she even said there was a song, she said in an interview, the dance floor is dead, we're making rock music now. And so like people ran with that. I think maybe even, I forget what our headline was, but I feel like we may have even like slightly ran with an assumption there, which happens. But like, I think people were like, okay, Charli XCX is saying dance music is over and I'm making a rock album. But what really happened was she released a song called Rock Music, and that exact quote is a lyric in the song. So I think that like backing up, it's like, okay, I don't think she was making a big point in that interview. I think she was starting discourse, buzz, whatever for, then she dropped this song and that's a lyric in it. So like my first kind of reaction was, is this whole thing sort of an elaborate joke or like a stunt or a troll move? And I definitely wasn't alone. I saw like the Fader published a headline like that, and our friend Eli Ennis actually wrote an article, and the headline was something like Charli XCX's rock music is a joke, something like that. It was, yeah, I mean, and then the discourse was was all over social media, and obviously reached Charli herself, because she said in her quote, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I want to read one part of it where she said, I'm just looking at the quote, I'm not going to explain where I was coming from with rock music, but all I know is that things can be funny, earnest, sincere, and joyful all at the same time. And that's what I feel about a lot of the things I make. And I also want to bring up that she wrote that she said the discourse around it reminds her of a lot of the initial discourse around PC music, which her collaborator A.G. Cook, who worked on this song with her, was, he was a big part of that. How the label was deemed as almost critiquing or looking down on pop music. So I think now I'm like, okay, I wonder if, I still kind of think it's like a joke, a stunt, a troll move. I think it's totally self-awarely that. I don't think she would have made this comment if it wasn't that at all. And I feel like she's kind of saying, on one hand, the song is this meta comment on rock. You know, she has these lyrics like, now I'm banging my head and now I'm like jumping off the stage. And I think she like, I forget the exact lyric. It's not in front of me, but like she talks about like getting hurt stage diving kind of. And then also it just has this like extremely generic, like 80s guitar rock riff in the background. And then when after the chorus hits, it sounds like it's like a lo-fi garage rock band playing for a second. Like it sounds like Bad on Purpose, like recorded in a garage, and then back to the more produced, like sort of Brat style, but rock song. And so I'm like, okay, is this whole thing like sort of this meta comment on rock? Is it supposed to be funny? And I guess, you know, she obviously doesn't want us to have the exact answer, which, you know, that makes sense. Very artist of her. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really like the song. I mean, I think if it was just one track on Brat, I probably wouldn't think much about it. It'd be fine. Maybe
it sounds like sometimes. A song from Brat. As much as it sounds like all the rock things you mentioned, it also just sounds like a song from
It sounds
Brat.
like a song from Brat with an 80s rock riff in the background. Like, it doesn't. I don't even think it sounds like a rock song. It sounds like a Brat song that like samples, like, you know, like Asia or Pat Benatar or something like that.
Do you think it shows up on an album?
Maybe. Didn't she just put out a B-side to it too?
Oh, I missed that.
But maybe. And I think if it did, again, if it was just an album track, then like we wouldn't be talking about it like this probably. We might even just be like, oh, that one's silly, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. She's got people talking, and that's what she does. And that's cool. I definitely don't listen to it for fun. I don't know. I don't think it's that good of a song, but I do think that it's been really fun to read all the people talk about it. So kudos to her for that. What it makes me think, the last thing I'll say about this is it makes me think her Wuthering Heights album is extremely underrated, because I feel like this one song has been talked about more in 6 days than that album has been talked about in 3 months. And I love that record. And I think it's like close to as good as Brat. And it's kind of funny how she can be such a megastar and have this new album out that like almost seems like it doesn't exist. It's very weird. Anyway, go listen to that album if you haven't.
I haven't been listening to Wuthering Heights lately. Definitely not as much as you, I have to admit. But I did listen, because I've been too busy listening to the entire Noah Kahan album. Yeah, so Noah Kahan, it's like the biggest artist in rock right now, maybe, at this moment, this week.
Is he rock?
Is he not rock? What do you tell me?
I haven't heard the album, actually. Only you have.
Is folk music rock? Like is
folk rock is rock? I mean, I guess I can see. Again, I haven't heard the record, but
did you watch him on SNL?
No, I did see the music video that he debuted for the first single during either the Grammys or the Super Bowl. I can't remember. And that is the extent of which I've heard this record. But in my mind, I don't group him with. I feel like he's kind of like, yeah, more in like the folk country pop realm to me. But but you know the album, so I should let you.
I don't know anything. According to REYM, he is the new album is first and foremost folk rock.
Okay.
Then singer-songwriter, then heartland rock, then Americana, right. Then indie folk.
Yeah, all right. So maybe it's heartland rock, folk rock.
But yeah, we're not jumping off the stage. We're not banging our heads.
No, there's no garage rock band slamming on their crash cymbals. Again, I haven't heard the album, but I'm guessing.
Is Zach Bryan rock?
Okay, so I don't know anything about this album, but from the single, my first thought was, oh, he's trying to do like more of a Zach Bryan thing. I felt like, I know they've collaborated. I felt like Noah Kahan has been this person who is pretty mainstream compared to what we tend to listen to. And then I heard that new single and I was like, I feel like he's trying to do sort of the Zach Bryan, like, I'm still mainstream and extremely popular and play stadiums, but I listen to Bon Iver, kind of. That's like what it sounded like to me.
There's all of that. Another way he's copying Zach Bryan is the new album called The Great Divide, which is also there's a title track, which is the biggest song, I think, right now on the album, and one of the ones he played on SNL, which was just this past SNL. So the album, another way he's copying Zach Bryan, the album is 21 tracks long, an hour and 36 minutes. That's actually 18 minutes longer than the new Zach Bryan album, which we said was really long, not counting, though, the acoustic version of Zach Bryan's album. So if you put those together, then Zach's album is way longer. Maybe Noah still will release an acoustic version of this. I don't know.
Maybe. How long has this been out?
This came out on April 24th, right? So we're talking.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been out for a minute.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but we.
So Zach Bryan's acoustic version came like 3 days later. So he's at if he's doing an acoustic version, at least he's not copying all of Zach's notes.
I see where you're going with that. I thought you were just calling me out for listening to it a month after it came out.
I'm impressed you listened to it at all.
So I not only I listened to the full thing the other day, and then I put it on again this morning to remind myself a little. So it's ready for this conversation.
Good. No, it's good research. I mean, I want to hear it. When that single came out, I wanted to be like, this is my Noah Kahan phase starting now, because I just felt like, because he had, now I can't remember what it was. He had like praised an artist in an interview that I was surprised he liked or something.
Didn't he cover Sufjan before?
Maybe that's what it is. Yeah, I felt like he was trying. I felt like he was trying to say like, hey, indie people, I like what you like. And I was like, okay, maybe this is the one that gets me. And then that single came out, and it sounded like it was trying to be Zach Bryan, but it was still too polished for me. And so I never heard the rest. But like, I kind of want to become a Noah Kahan fan. So maybe I'll give the like 2 hour long album a shot, or whatever it is.
Yeah. And he was speaking to you. We got to imagine that he knew exactly what he needed to do a few months before the album came out to get certain people's attention. It was January that he covered Radiohead, MJ Lenderman, and Sufjan at the Out of the Blue Festival.
That's what I'm thinking of. Mm-hmm. And I will, you know what? It's funny because like I kind of see him in my Twitter feed a lot now, and he just seems kind of down to earth, which is also cool. And he seems like a very likable person. I feel like not to sound like too like, like what's the word for when people think they're friends with pop stars?
Parasocial,
yeah. But I feel like I would sooner be Noah Kahan's friend than Noah Kahan's fan. But no, he seems very cool, very likable, very like-minded to people that I like in the music world.
It's funny you mention that, because I actually wrote down a bunch of his tweets specifically to quote right now, including one about the length of the album. He tweeted, by the way, there were a lot of conversations about the length of this album. I guess he got a lot of people were like, what the hell? Why are you releasing an hour and 20 minutes? Cut it down. But quote, me and my team always remembered that fans never want less music. Okay.
So that's literally a Zach Bryan thing.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not, because when you said that originally, I was like, well, kind of all mainstream albums are too long. It's like a thing with streaming services, gaming the numbers, blah, blah, blah. But Zach has specifically he was quoted saying like, a lot of times my favorite song on an album is like the deep cut or like the previously unreleased B-side. So like, I just figure any song could be someone's favorite. I'm just going to put them all out. This is like the exact same sentiment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But then I know you say that about mainstream albums, but it also, I guess there's another related thing where you notice, what's the exact number? But like so many new albums that come out are exactly 44 minutes or whatever it is.
Oh, yeah. Well,
on Spotify.
That's probably because I think that's max length of one disc vinyl.
Okay.
It's somewhere in that ballpark is what you can fit on one vinyl disc. So that's probably like this is I think if this is an hour and a half, it's like classic double album length, I think.
Yeah, hour 36. And I don't know if some of those there might have been a little bit of Zach Bryan / thing that other mainstream artists do, which is I think he may have released 4 of those songs as bonus tracks days later.
Oh, that's a very mainstream artist thing.
And I haven't totally figured that out, but I just clicked on the version of the album that there's not really, let's see. if we look at Noah's albums, okay, there's two. Wait, there's The Great Divide, which came out, and then there's The Great Divide, The Last of the Bugs. Okay. Already two versions of this album. All right, the first one is an hour and 17 minutes. So yes, I listened to the came out days later or weeks later deluxe version.
Interesting.
That's all. Zach Bryan as well. He's got the regular version of the album and then immediately the acoustic version of the album, which also has the entire regular version of the album tacked on the end. So, yeah. And that's what we see with a lot of rap and pop artists, right? Coming out.
It's got to be a major label thing where they're like, I would imagine it's the label's idea, or at least maybe now that it's so common, maybe there are artists who want to do it because they see it work, I guess. But yeah, it's got to have something to do with like staying in the charts longer or something. I don't know. Seems silly.
So my initial thoughts on listening to the full album was like on one listen, I'm like moments on this are okay. But then there were moments that just felt like very not okay. It's not that far away from music I like Zach Bryan. So my fear is if I listen to it on repeat enough, I'll start to like it. I think that already is happening with the title track, the single, the hit. You find yourself like, oh, I know this, bopping my head.
When
like
you've heard it enough times.
Yeah, if it comes on the radio, you're not necessarily turning it off.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just some parts that are straight up Bon Iver. Like it's so Bon Iver that it's just, I feel like it would be weird if I didn't like it because I actually feel like I'm listening to Bon Iver. But then that's also a reason not to like it because it's so spot on. And we already have Bon Iver at home and have for like 20 years, right? At this point. So
almost. Wow. Yeah. Forever came out in 2007. That's crazy.
And some of these songs sound like they were Bon Iver songs back then. It's just so spot on. And I think...
I definitely think that the version of Bon Iver that both Zach Bryan and Noah Kahan are influenced by is the Forever Ago version. Not the like more Dijon McGee adjacent Bon Iver that is sort of... So in a way, we don't have Bon Iver at home anymore.
Oh, true. So the Bon Iver is back in the form of Noah Kahan. And... You can't really be mad. Noah's huge. All right, this album debuted at number 1.
Yeah.
It is I think Spotify released the songs of like our top 10 streamed songs right now are all on this album. All 21 songs were simultaneously charting on the Hot 100 and so on. I don't know. There's all these other stats.
Right.
So this is a huge album. His tour, like you said, it's at stadiums. He's playing baseball fields. There's 2 nights sold out at Citi Field, 4 at Fenway, 2 at Wrigley. He goes on. And did you see he went to the Knicks game?
Yes.
Like a week or 2 ago?
I did also see that, yes.
So the parts like Bon Iver, I think I like. But, I don't know if there's some parts that are not appealing to me personally. He's definitely also doing this Lumineers Hozier thing. I actually listened to Hozier today because I don't really know Hozier, but I see him get compared to Hozier. So it's like, let me see if that
makes
true.
Sense, I think.
And I feel like Hozier kind of felt like less rock to me. Like you said, is Noah rock? And when I listened to Hozier, I was like, this doesn't seem like rock.
Well, Hozier, I think, is like more kind of like almost soulful and like more produced, like doesn't have that earthy, folky. But, speaking of, you hear a song enough times, that Hozier song, Too Sweet, it's kind of like one of those songs that I don't like to admit that I get in my head a lot. But yeah, anyway, I digress. Hozier, I feel like is like Lumineers you mentioned are very much like folk rock. Hozier, I think, is more kind of like... too? Yeah, of course. I mean, they are I think their song, like the Ho Hey song, is probably why people started calling it that.
Right. So
but also Zach Bryan is stomp clap adjacent too. So it's
we won't admit that. All right. So
I just did.
Noah is not also on the cover of Rolling Stone right now. I don't know. I assume that's also in print. You never know these days. But it's the interview. They put some quotes out that I read, including They asked him about being placed in the, quote, stomp, clap, hey genre, which many have called, quote, dated. That's Rolling Stone's words. Here's Noah's reaction to that. I always thought the millennial 2010s thing was brilliant, and I never stopped loving it. A lot of times people hear my music and are like, this is just some Mumford & Sons shit. I'm like, I love Mumford & Sons.
Yeah, that is not surprising to hear.
He, how old's Noah? He's also...
A good question.
Noah Kahan, age, he's 29.
Okay. Yeah, so Mumford & Sons came out when he was a teenager.
Yeah. They are...
I mean, I think Mumford & Sons and the Lumineers are also on a Zach Bryan song, if I'm not mistaken.
They are.
But Mumford & Sons and Lumineers are probably just as influential on Zach and Noah as Bon Iver. I mean, that also, like, I think we sort of talked about this when we did the Edward Sharpe episode. Like, Mumford & Sons and Bon Iver were not even that different at the time. Like they had a lot of the same fans, you know, like it's like, it's a little bit revisionist history to be like, Bon Iver was always cool, Mumford & Sons was always uncool. Like, they shared a lot of fans, and I think two of those fans are now headlining stadiums.
One last thing I took a note on Noah is the album got a 6.2 on Pitchfork, which, as someone pointed out, 0.3 lower than Peppa Pig. As I'm going to point out.
Best meme that never gets old.
More recent news, that's like 5 higher than the new Chris Brown. That's the current trending topic. And Noah, like you said, he's very nice on Twitter. He weighed in on the Pitchfork score as well, saying, Pitchfork gave me low score, but being generally kind, I'll take the fucking wins where I can get them.
That's one of the tweets I was thinking of.
Yeah.
I was like, you could tell that he cares about his Pitchfork score, which is like, well, these days, Pitchfork is like a topic of conversation on like pop stan Twitter, but he seems like he cares about Pitchfork in that more indie way. Like Somber was like this too, when in the VMAs, when he got interviewed, I think by somebody at Pitchfork, and was like, please don't give me a bad score, Pitchfork. You could tell like these people like Somber and Noah Kahan are like these fully major label, massive people, but who want that Pitchfork indie cred. That's how it seemed to me. And actually, wait, there's one thing you didn't mention, which I know also from Twitter, because I saw his quote from the Rolling Stone piece. The album was produced by Aaron Dessner.
I meant to mention that. Yeah. Oh, wait. Oh, no, I didn't mean to mention that. There was, I meant to mention that about something else later in this episode.
Yeah, there's another Aaron Dessner produced album out this week.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and obviously he's worked with Taylor Swift. So at this point, you can't even call him, like, I almost feel like at this point, Aaron Dessner just produces pop artists. But
right, that's why,
like,
you know what? That's part of why it doesn't even faze me anymore, right? He did Ed Sheeran.
Right, but I also feel like every pop artist that works with him is also looking, like Taylor Swift started working with Aaron when she was like, I'm going to make these quote unquote indie folk records. Noah Kahan, I feel, is kind of doing the same thing. And actually, like, anecdotal here, but more than one Noah Kahan fan I know is a massive Swiftie. So I wonder if there's like some kind of like Swifties like Noah Kahan. That might be a thing. There may be some connection there.
Swifties like Phoebe Bridgers.
Yes, that's a really good segue.
Phoebe Bridgers, who has been playing new songs at surprise shows all week, which is, if you don't know, really exciting because Phoebe Bridgers hasn't played until this week. Phoebe Bridgers hadn't played a solo show since she opened for Taylor Swift at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey in 2023. MetLife Stadium, also where Zach Bryan has played multiple nights, where I assumed Noah Kahan was playing before I saw that it was at Citi Field. Citi Field, way more convenient for us New Yorkers. Oh, you're not. Yeah. I'm not talking about you anymore. Sorry. But yeah, speaking of MetLife Stadium, this also a good time to mention. Just today, we record Thursday afternoon. The album comes out Thursday night, aka Friday morning. Just announced this morning that Madonna, Shakira, and BTS will play a World Cup halftime show at MetLife Stadium.
Maybe people will be hacky sacking in the parking lot.
Definitely.
It's the first World Cup halftime show, right?
So are there more than one? I mean,
isn't it first ever?
First ever.
Isn't it like a Super Bowl halftime show, but for the World Cup now? Like, is that not? Am I understanding correctly?
That's really lucky, right? Is there anything more special about a World Cup show at MetLife Stadium than wherever else? The World Cup show, World Cup game at MetLife than like other places World Cup games are happening? Because it just seems really lucky if you're going to that game on July 19th here in New Jersey.
No, totally. I mean, I just Googled it. I think it's the first time there's a... Wait, now I can't...
No.
Yeah, are they saying it's the first ever, or are they saying it's the first of some others to be announced?
No, I think for first ever seems right.
I think, Super Bowl style World Cup halftime show is the AP News headline. Yeah, I think this is now World Cup doing a halftime show. Feels like a long time coming. Makes sense.
They're calling it Chris Martin curated, which is kind of funny because do you really need, at that level, you needed Chris Martin to tell you, I think Madonna, Shakira, and BTS, that would be, those are some up and coming artists that would be really make for a great halftime show here. BTS, who also have 2 shows coming at that same venue, their own shows.
Yeah, which is like an underplay for them.
Yeah, Madonna and Shakira, I'm sure, also have played. I don't know if Madonna would do that venue these days, but
Madonna's last tour was arenas, and Shakira, I think Shakira maybe was MetLife. Yeah,
it seems familiar.
But I'll have to fact check that. But yeah, who knows? I mean, maybe we saw the viral clip of Sabrina Carpenter fans at Coachella not knowing the words to "Like a Prayer." Right. So, will the Sabrina Carpenter collaboration introduce Madonna to the new generation, or has Madonna just failed to reach the new generation? Stay tuned to find out.
So back to Phoebe. Phoebe has played MetLife Stadium, but as an opener. Do you think she'll ever headline? I don't know.
I would not rule that out. I think Boy Genius headline Madison Square Garden, and I assume Phoebe Bridgers will headline Madison Square Garden in the near future. So,
okay, you mentioned Boy Genius, Phoebe's band with Lucy Dacus and Julian Baker. They also have basically been inactive since 2023. Since then, Julian and Lucy have done a lot of things, and Lucy's been touring like crazy, put out albums. Julian put out country album,
sung on the Status Landscapes record.
Yes, there's been things, but Phoebe, she's only put out 2 full-length albums, and the last one was Punisher in 2020, both amazing albums that we love. And but that, some of the songs on Boy Genius are also her songs. So she's put out 2 Boy Genius albums.
To go back to Justin Vernon, I always kind of I look at Phoebe Bridgers as sort of the Justin Vernon of her generation, because it's like really long gaps between albums, but like multiple side projects in that time. And first album, really intimate, somber indie folk, and then collaborates with Taylor Swift. Lots of parallels.
That is a great parallel. And that kind of, so I guess I can't ask, because I was thinking about this too, my excitement for Phoebe made me start to think, who else is like this? I mean, I guess you just answered the question, but I guess because I go back to Phoebe Bridgers is also like the Elliott Smith of now, but Elliott Smith wasn't going to open for Taylor Swift, or was he?
I think he signed to a major label at some point.
So I guess
but still was never as big as Phoebe Bridgers is now.
Right. But yet, and I guess part of it is how, when I say I was excited, it made me think of this, because I'm becoming part of the Swiftie world hasn't changed my feelings for Phoebe Bridgers, to say it in a snobby way. So I was trying to think of I guess it's times are just different now also. So you can't really compare indie cred type reasoning to modern times.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's big news when last Thursday a Phoebe show happening the very next day in Roswell, New Mexico was announced. And sure enough, after not having new songs for so many years, she played new songs in addition to not new songs at that show. So it was okay, this kind of what felt like a publicity stunt. Like you said, she's going to headline Madison Square Garden. This was a small club in Roswell, New Mexico. announced hours before. It was open to the public. People had to, I think, wait online. And then she continued this for 3 more shows. By the time you listen to this, it's possible another show we didn't even know about yet happened. But
it's possible she's announced an album.
That too. So it was 4 days in a row. Roswell, New Mexico, Lubbock, Texas, Little Rock, Arkansas, and then Memphis, Tennessee. Each time she played more new songs, and no video has leaked because these were no phone shows, and each attendee had to sign a confidentiality agreement at the door that included putting down the address of their parents and children. No, just kidding about that last part. But somehow, like, you know, sometimes it was one of these Yonder Pat shows. You had to put your phone in the thing. Sometimes videos, almost always it feels like video still immediately gets out from Yonder Pat shows. But I didn't look at that hard, but I didn't see any like video of the new songs.
I tried to look around and I couldn't find any.
Yeah. Clearly now she has a lot of new songs that she plans to announce on a new album. It's her time again. And coincidentally, I guess, maybe not coincidentally, photos have, quote, leaked at the same time these shows just suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Photos of her in what appears to be the studio. People said these came from her. The studio leaked them or somebody leaked them associated with the studio. I don't know the whole story. But these photos appeared that appear to be her in a studio with Matty Healy of the 1975, Alex G, Jack Antonoff, and her boyfriend, Bo Burnham. So people have been assuming, writing, that this means these people are all collaborators on her new album. A representative for Phoebe denies that the photos are being described correctly, but people are still running with this. Maybe it's it. I don't think she's officially put out a statement on what they were.
Didn't photos leak before the last Boy Genius album announcement too? Like, I feel like this is like a trend.
Yeah, I'm sure. They're definitely going by a playbook here. The marketing has begun for this new Phoebe album, no doubt.
Chaotic Good behind this?
Chaotic Good is behind everything. Hacky Sax, Phoebe, Noah Kahan, probably. I have a few questions, first of all. Is that all the collaborators? What do you think? So let's say if Jack Antonoff is in the, who, by the way, came out at Haley Williams' show like 2 nights ago. So this scene of people that are all collaborating with each other. And will Haley Williams be on the Phoebe Bridgers album? Will Brendan Yates be on the Phoebe Bridgers album? No word on those yet. But
will Connor Oberst be on it?
That is kind of a gossipy question, honestly. I think.
I mean, they collaborated before.
No, I know.
Isn't he on both of her albums?
Yeah, I know, but I guess there's some question on where their relationship is now.
Well, that's not what I was implying.
Okay.
Well, I just was thinking that there's a lot of, I would think that, you know, he's a possibility. Julian and Lucy feel like possibilities. Taylor Swift feels like a possibility.
True.
And I wouldn't be surprised, just based on her last record too, if it's like when you look at the credits, you see all kinds of cool people. Like she could have like 20 musicians on there that are all like names we're familiar with, kind of stuff. Do
you think you see a Desner in there?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
Jack Antonoff and Desner have done things together, right?
Yeah, but the Taylor Swift albums.
Taylor Swift, I meant. Yeah. See, now I'm even confusing Phoebe and Taylor. All right. You know, I want to see This Is Lorelei in there.
Yeah, that would be... Phoebe Bridgers has to get with the times and cover a This Is Lorelei song.
She needs to cover This Lorelei song, which... All right, going back to Haley Williams. Last night, at Haley Williams' second of 3 LA shows, you know, she brings out guests every show. We often talk about them on this podcast. She brought out This Is Lorelei, aka Nate Amos, who is also in Water for Your Eyes, who are opening the Haley Williams tour, and actually Rachel, the other Water From Your Eyes member, also comes out with Haley a lot at these shows. But this was the first time This Is Lorelei came out as This Is Lorelei, and they did. Haley also has this new side project, Power Snatch, and on the new This Is Lorelei deluxe album, Power Snatch redoes one of the songs. Do you call it a cover? Do you call it a rework?
I definitely call them covers, even though this is Nate is on all of them, I think. And I think they're technically called maybe like versions, but I feel like they are really covers. And I think it's okay to call them that. But I don't know about you, but I love listening to that new covers album, whatever it is. Like, honestly, like Sasami's version of I'm All Fucked Up is so beautiful. Like, I don't want to say it's better than the original, but that song has been hitting me. This cover really hits hard. I think it's so cool. All these people covering Nate's music. He's obviously I think he's like one of the best songwriters around at the moment, honestly. I'm bummed that the Cameron Winter cover, which happened live, didn't make the album. But yeah, anyway, digression. But I just want to say, because I haven't talked about it on this show, that I think that is like such a cool project, and it makes me really excited to hear all these people covering his music and interpreting it differently. Anyway, Phoebe should get with the picture and do it too.
Definitely. It's like, what? Alex G is like, come on, it's 2026. This is Lorelei. What do we
times, got? You know?
And
she's got to have MJ Lenderman on drums on at least one song if she wants to be cool.
This is Lorelei, though, signed the Matador. Does that make... He just signed the Matador. That's other new news. Does that make him like
Water from Your Eyes is already on, right?
Right. So it wasn't like a huge shock
but
there.
Still felt, he feels like he was on Double Double Whammy, which has consistently been such a cool DIY label that's given us like Frankie Cosmos and Mitski and all kinds of like, artists that went on to be way bigger than the DIY world. And I'm no surprise that he's gone to a bigger label. I almost wondered if he would get to a bigger label than Matador. Like, I mean, all love Matador's like, the OGs, but like I could almost see him like really getting big, but I could still see him getting big on Matador. Anyway, I'm assuming that the signing means a new album, and I'm like just as excited for this as Phoebe. I mean, it's less to talk about than Phoebe because her rollout has already been like sort of, sparking all this kind of speculation. But these two things in 1 week, these could be like two of the most anticipated records of this year, honestly.
That's a good point. If those both come out this year.
Right. Or next year or whenever it is. I'm guessing Phoebe's this year, but this is Lorelei. If it's just a signing, not even a single, not even an album announced, could be next year. Like I remember when MJ Lenderman signed to Anti, I think it was like one single, then the live album. The new album came the following year. So who knows? What were you going to say?
I think, I'm going to back up for a second and say we were surprised earlier this year when the great new Mitski album still came out on secretly labeled Dead Oceans. It felt like Mitski could have made the jump. Now we're wondering, is this Phoebe Bridgers album also going to come out on her label Dead Oceans? For Boy Genius, they went to Universal, I think. So
Interscope.
Right, which is
might
owned
be
by
owned
Universal.
By Universal.
Yeah, definitely.
Interscope still, yeah.
Yeah, so Phoebe has already made the major label jump as a member of Boy Genius. But I feel like there's definitely a possibility this solo album could still come out on Dead Oceans. But I was thinking, if you look at the people who were in the studio, supposedly, allegedly, with her, Matt Healy, 1975, I'm thinking also Universal, maybe. I know they have their own label too,
on
Direct Hit.
Dirty Hit, which I forget, which is owned by a major. They are 1975 are a major label band.
Definitely.
But also
Alex
Maddie
G,
and Phoebe like go far back at this point too, I think.
Oh yeah, there's definitely some connection there. Yeah. Also, is Phoebe allowed to hang out with Maddie and still be like accepted by Swifties? What are the rules on that?
Oh, that's a good point. It'll be okay. I think if this album is not on a major label, then her next one will be, is my guess. She's got to have a solo career on a major at some point. It's inevitable.
Sure, like Alex G, who put out a ton of albums not on majors, but is now on.
More surprising to me than if Phoebe would sign to one.
True. And Alex is that also? He's
on
RCA.
RCA. Yeah.
And then Jack Antonoff, of course, works on many, many major label albums.
Yeah, I mean, to go back full circle to your like Phoebe Bridgers is like part of the Swiftie universe, pop stan Twitter now and stuff. Like, I feel like Phoebe is just a mainstay of the conversation with like the sort of like somewhat alternative leaning pop girls like Billie Eilish and Lana Del Rey and Lorde and post folklore Taylor Swift. It just feels like that she's and also you just hear so many of at least Billie Eilish. I can think of like a song or two where it feels like she's clearly influenced by Phoebe Bridgers. Taylor Swift, same thing, in addition to collaborating and touring with her. So it feels like she's like kind of fully a member of like the pop community, but also to your point, like you said, very much still also a member of like it's not like she's I don't accuse people of selling out, but it's not like she's sold out, so to speak. She's still also, it's Julian Baker is like the same thing, right? Where it's like you could see Julian Baker on tour with Taylor Swift, or you can see Julian Baker singing on a Saddest Landscape record, and both are just normal things for Julian Baker. I don't think Phoebe Bridgers is going to end up on a hardcore album in the near future, although she was on a Joyce Manor album, Lest We Never Forget. But I do think that similar to, the Julian thing, it's just like she's very much just part of both worlds, and I think that's cool to see.
Like Julian Baker on a Jeremy Boehm track, on a Touche Amore track.
I see where you're going with this.
This week, we got a new Jeremy Boehm song, but this time him on somebody else's track. Actually, that's also pretty common. It's can you tell me about that one?
Yeah, he's very kind with very generous with his guest vocal appearances, which is he's one of those artists I think that like if I see him on a track, I'm instantly going to care. Although I would have cared about this one anyway, because I'm gonna, before I reveal the name of the artist.
I think what I'm like was subconsciously just trying to say, Jeremy and Julian both on that new Saddest Landscape album, and now Jeremy on this new project. Which what's it called? Right.
So the project I've been talking about is Light Once Lost, which is Alec Riley from Initiate, and it's funny, I guess coincidental timing. It feels like the week of emo side projects or post-hardcore, punk, whatever. Genre arguments aside, it's more easier to say it this way. But Alec from Initiate launched this band called Light Once Lost, and put out 2 songs. One of them has Jeremy Boehm from Touche Amore on it. Dante from Anxious put out this EP under the Ether mod, and Soft Curse is this band with 3 members of State Faults, plus a drummer who's not in State Faults. And they just announced their debut album. So it's like these 3 really, like 3, I guess, side projects or offshoot bands of 3 bands we really love in sort of the emo and post-hardcore realm, all announced kind of like this week. So fun timing. And let's talk about it.
All right. I was going to say that one theme here too is Initiate, the Initiate guys band. I have been trying to see Initiate for whenever that last Initiate album came out. I love that song.
It was 2024 or 4. I'm looking it up. You talk. I'm looking it up.
Yeah. Well, ever since that album, I've been an Initiate
2023.
Fan. At least since that album. Yeah. And it felt like they never come here. And so I still have never seen Initiate, even though there's some hardcore bands that are in the same scene at them that I've seen. That same scene as them that I've seen 10 times because they're like always touring. I've seen Anxious a million times at this point. Mm-hmm. But yeah, somehow I never see Initiate, so I was like super surprised / bummed when I realized a week or 2 ago when I saw in someone's Instagram story that they were here playing. I don't want to call it random because that's mean, but it felt random. Some random show at the Meadows. They just were like on the bill. And I hadn't heard of a single other band on that show. Initiate's from California, right?
Yeah,
like
they're a West Coast band, and they kind of just play like West Coast short runs. They don't really tour the country. That's why
so for them to just appear on some random day in Brooklyn, as that was super weird. I hope they come back still. But also actually, they also came off as this band that doesn't play live a ton, which is part of the reason. But their Instagram, they're on another big tour, I think. So yeah, maybe they're going for it a little more lately. That's good.
I hope so. I mean, I love them, and I wish not only have I not seen them because I don't think they come to the East Coast much, but I also just think that they are just way less big than I feel like they should be. Like Jeremy Boehm being tied to them makes so much sense because they really, especially on Cerebral Circus, their second record, I believe it's their second full length, it really just brings me back to like the early days of like Touche and Pianos Become the Teeth and like that sort of like that wave of post-hardcore. And I mean, I just like, I thought Initiate was going to pop off way more so than they have. And they still might, but the music is there. Like the songs are so accessible in the context of hardcore.
You're reminding me, I think that Initiate album like was very high or even topped Jeremy's personal 2023 list. It's possible.
Probably. Yeah. That's not, it's like, I mean, it's just, I feel like it's one of those, like, if you know it, you love it, but you probably don't know it kind of records. Like I think it'd be hard to hear it and shrug at it. It's so fantastic, but it just didn't seem to get that big of a push.
And the reason I said it seems like Initiate are going for it, besides that random show, they're opening the Enter Shikari Boston Manor tour in June.
Oh, that's that sounds like going for it to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, I wonder if if they have a new record and maybe like signed to Pure Noise or something like that. But I think before I continue with my little narrative, I wondered if you were going to say that State Faults is also a band you don't get to see on the East Coast.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry. The second part of my theme, State Faults. Maybe because it was more recently. When was that album? Was that
2024? Yeah.
Yeah.
And they are also a West Coast band. I mean, like basically of the same overall scene, like also Touche Amore adjacent, but been around much longer. And State Fault's reason is different. I think they're just kind of basically a veteran band who make albums with pretty long gaps, like Phoebe Bridgers. And they just like, I don't think they are going for like the grind of being a young active band anymore. I think they just kind of make albums when they can and play shows when they can. Whereas Initiate are kind of like that young band who I expect to be going for it. So anyway, go on.
No, that makes sense. I sometimes forget that State Faults have been a band for 15 years or something. Or
I mean, they're like, it's almost like they exaggerated comparison, but it's almost like an American football thing where like the first iteration of the band, like it feels like there's like two like totally distinct eras of State Faults. Like there's like the last record felt like this breakthrough, even though it was also like a late career album. But whereas, there was the State Faults back in 2013 that was, again, part of that wave of post-hardcore with Touche and Pianos and those kind of bands, and just kind of broke up right before a lot of those bands got big. And so, yeah, it's like there's two versions of the band, it feels, even though I think, well, maybe slight lineup change, but like two eras of the band that are like kind of separated by a long gap. And that last album did feel like a big breakthrough. And I feel like it brought in a lot of new fans, even though it's like their fourth or fifth or something.
Definitely. And I was obsessed with it. And I think, right, it was their first album in 5 years. Yeah, I was obsessed with that new one. And I just, I think they played here in the past 3 years, maybe once. I definitely didn't make it there. And I would have loved to see them. And seeing that they're now, many of the members are doing this new side project, I don't know if that means there's less of a chance that they're going to tour.
They tweeted, the wording of their tweet was, our new band Soft Curse announced an album, something like, so I'm like, ooh, does our new band mean that State Faults isn't a thing? But also the first time State Faults kind of officially went on hiatus, a lot of the members had a different band they formed. I got to look the name up. I don't remember.
Chiodos?
So, no, yeah, right.
There's some connection between State Faults and Chiodos.
There's some member, I think, that has been in both. But as I look this up, Ghost Witch, is that what I'm thinking of? No, Slow Bloom. I'm on Rate Your Music. Yeah, Slow Bloom was like the multiple members of State Faults in between the first hiatus and the first kind of comeback record. And so it's like, if you think about it, they didn't even really go away. They just kind of like changed the lineup, changed the name, and still put out a fair amount of music in that time. So I kind of wonder if this will be similar. Like, will Soft Curse be the focus, and then maybe we just get the next State Faults record in 2031? I don't know.
Well, meanwhile, as bummed as I am about State Faults going away for now or not ever seeing them, this new Soft Curse song rocks. It's super my thing. I just, I'm loving this. Now I want to see Soft Curse live really badly as well, just based on one song.
Yeah, so the kind of the other theme about all these side projects is they're all sort of different genres than the main band. Like Light Once Lost, like Initiate Again is kind of that like wave style post-hardcore. Light Once Lost kind of is more like alternative rock. Alec, who is not the singer of Initiate, sings lead on this project, and it's like all clean vocals. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize Initiate had like, I mean, maybe Alec does vocals on the last Initiate record, like backup vocals, but like I didn't realize they had like a second person with, vocal range. But anyway, it's like more in the alternative rock kind of realm. Dante from Aegis' new thing, the Ether mod, is like way heavier than pretty much anything Aegis has done since their Never Better EP back in 2019. It like reminded me of Hum, Torch, Sunny Day Real Estate, and like a couple sort of like white belt metalcore riffs. But then Dante's voice is extremely recognizable because he's basically like a co-lead singer at this point with Grady and Anxious. And even though Grady is like such clearly the front man, if you know Bambi in particular, the last Anxious record, really well, I think you'll recognize the vocals a lot on this EP. And then Soft Curse, you said you love it so much. You're a metalhead. It's way more metal. State Faults, are kind of a screamo and post-hardcore thing. And my elevator pitch is that Soft Curse, that new song, sounds like Electric Wizard meets Circus Survive. And you had pointed out, and I agree, that there's also like a slight, so like you had said Dokken, like there is like a little bit of a soaring, wailing, like kind of hair metal thing in there too, slightly.
Yeah, the Electric Wizard and Circus Survive comparison, definitely Black Sabbath, Dio, and this, this kind of like high pitched post-hardcore vocal thing that goes across classic heavy metal, glam, hair metal, and great post-hardcore bands like Circus Survive and At the Drive-In. Also, in that same category is the new Silver album, and just kind of this progressive, exciting, like not cheesy, metally, but with punk guys' way doing that.
Totally. Like the Silvers album, like in my head I was like, this is like Deaf Heaven meets The Circle Takes the Square meets The Sound of Animals Fighting, which is another Anthony Green band. And so for this to be like Circus Survive meets doom metal, it's like there's so many similarities there. But then it's also like the Silver, I feel, because it's members of Horrendous and Crypt Sermon, I think the Silver is metal people. That sounds surprisingly, to me at least, emo. Maybe I'm sure I bet they're emo heads. They're also from Philly, so probably emo heads. Whereas Soft Curse is like emo people doing metal, and who are probably also metalheads, as a lot of people in screamo and post-hardcore bands are. So yeah, arriving at a very similar place from different scenes, so to speak.
Right. And actually, and of course, those Silver guys are in Crypt Sermon, who are just doing the full-on classic heavy metal thing too.
Right. Like a literal, like just straight up kind of classic metal and doom thing.
Yeah. Should we talk about new albums? It's not a big week for new albums, but let's go through them really quick.
There's the album I'm most excited about is Kevin Morby's new album, Little Wide Open, which Bill reviews in his Indie Basement column on Brooklyn Vegan. This is the album we foreshadowed is produced by Aaron Dessner. And Justin Vernon is on it. Actually, Justin Vernon is on at least two albums out this week, because maybe there's a third that I don't know about, but He is also on the new Dua Sela album. So Justin Vernon is on 2 of this week's albums, both exciting. And a lot of guests are on the Kevin record, including Amelia from Sylvanesso, and Lucinda Williams is on it with a really standout appearance. That's awesome. Katie from Muna is on it. I feel, I mean, we've all at Brooklyn Vegan been longtime Kevin Morby fans, and I feel like he's really kind of going for it on this one. The production feels a little bit bigger. The songs just kind of feel like they're, kind of just shooting for like a lot of big American rock and roll tropes. There's really, really good fiddle on track 2 that really stood out to me. It's just I think it's a standout record for an artist that we've just loved for a long time. So this is the album that is kind of the most interesting to me this week. But I'm also excited that there's a new Genesis Owusu record, which is like his last album. It's sort of this really, really unique combo of post-punk and hip-hop and funk and pop, and it's just like high energy is the way I always like to describe him. It's just so energetic. And it's also, this one is a very political record. And we're definitely worth shouting out, I think, that Spencer Krug, fresh off doing his solo piano version of the Wolf Parade song that Heated Rivalry made viral, is putting out a solo record. So will Heated Rivalry bring some more eyes to this record? Probably not, but it should, because Spencer Krug's solo catalog is, his entire catalog of all his many monikers and bands, fantastic. And he's just still got it, and I'm really excited about that. But yeah, what, any others stood out to you?
I don't know if I want to shout this out, but I noticed Jack Johnson has something out this week, which I'm not going to say that I am interested in hearing Jack Johnson, but I thought it was interesting.
Whatever you say, Noah Kahan fan.
Thanks for stealing my line. That's what that is where I was going with this. It had occurred to me while listening to Noah Kahan. I don't even fully know what Jack Johnson sounds like, and I'm not saying that just to be cool, but like I do kind of know what he sounds like, I guess.
Doesn't he have a song about like apples and bananas or something?
Is that him?
Banana pancakes.
Oh, I don't know. I really don't know. Jack Johnson wasn't my thing. And I think in the early years of BV used to make fun of him a lot. But I think, remember that was, yes, because remember it was a big thing when Jack Johnson came back and he was announced as like a co-headliner of every festival. And that year it was the biggest joke. Like, what? We just were so mad. Yeah. So I definitely was wondering if there's some Jack Johnson in Noah Kahan. Is there?
Maybe.
Is that honestly, is Jack Johnson, is Noah Kahan the new Jack Johnson? All right, sorry, Noah. Anyway, there is one more album. I can't
believe that you could be talking about the new Kelly Stoltz album and you're talking about Jack Johnson's soundtrack or whatever.
Wait, how do you know I'm about to talk about the new Kelly Stoltz album? I haven't said that yet, but I
can see the future.
There's one more album that we need to highlight, which Bill reviews in Indie Basement. That's San Francisco DIY legend, musical polymath, occasionally touring member of Echo and the Bunnyman and Robin Hitchcock's band. Hilarious person, to quote Bill, and Indie Basement all-star Kelly Stoltz. He's back with his 19th album. And Bill says it's another great collection of songs that mix his love of 60s pop and late 70s post-punk. If you're unfamiliar with Kelly, as the title suggests, this is a great place to start. Bill also reviews an Indie Basement new album.
Wait, did you say the title?
It's called
If You Don't Know Me
I'm not really
by Now.
Oh, right. So it was relevant.
It's a pun. If you don't know me, comma, BUY now.
Got it. Sorry, yeah. I should have looked at that as well. All right. Also in Indie Basement, he reviews Touch Girl Apple Blossom, which is a new album out on Kill Rock Stars, Australian band The Gnomes, and more. So go read notable releases and Indie Basement on BrooklynVegan.com to see all the albums that we review this week. Should we go to the news?
Go to the news.
If you haven't seen or heard yet, Bill talked to Mike Ness of Social Distortion on the new episode of the BV Interviews podcast. Go listen to that. Have you heard the new Social D album yet? I know you have, Andrew, because you reviewed it last week in notable releases.
And I still highly recommend it.
Be Your Own Pet have announced a 20th anniversary tour for their debut album. While Flea is out on tour in support of his new jazz album, he played Webster Hall here in New York City this week. While I was actually not that far away at the Failure show, I realized lots more people I knew were at that Flea show than the Failure show. Red Hot Chili Peppers have sold their catalog, right? Sorry, I didn't take good notes here. Red Hot Chili Peppers have sold their music catalog to Warner for $300 million. What do you think about that?
I thought they would just give it away.
Oh, the Mountain Goats have announced a new album called Days, originally titled Grunges, a sequel to Goths. Basement have announced a North American tour in support of their new album that we've talked about a lot on this podcast.
Another album I highly recommend.
With a very cool list of rotating openers. They really, they nailed that one from my record collection's point of view, including Mama, Dive, Fiddlehead, who feature a member of Basement, First Day Back, February, and more.
I want to say like this list of openers both impressed me so much and made me feel old because like I remember when Basement like got that look from some of the veteran bands of like the previous generation of emo and stuff, like having them on tours, and I was like, wow, that's so cool that like these bands are tapped into what Basement is doing. And now Basement are that veteran band. And I'm like, wow, they're so cool that they're tapped into First Day Back in February and stuff. It's just crazy that they're now like these veterans and that I'm like impressed that they have the new generation on the bill.
Yeah. And to be fair, you know, February also getting these looks, played Coachella, played, the Hardcore Fest and
Sound and Fury.
Thank you. And
yeah. No,
First Day,
I mean, yeah.
First Day Back just announced a tour. Like they're finally a tour. They're coming in New York. They're playing Baby's All Right. It's sold out instantly. So yeah, these are bands are popping. And if you like that tour, you might also be interested to know that Movements and Balancing Composure also just announced a tour.
Yes. Movements remain, speaking of curation, the openers on Movements tours are always Chef's Kiss. Midriff is on that tour too. And then another band, I think it's Nice is how it's pronounced, Niis. But yeah, because the last Movements tour had direct support from Citizen. Now they got Balance. Just cool stuff.
And Midriff on that tour, another not hardcore band that played Sound and Fury.
Yes.
There's a theme going on. Basement are a not hardcore band who played Sound and Fury.
Basement are a non-hardcore band who have been playing hardcore shows since they had just a demo out.
And if you like those tours, well, maybe you don't care that trip hop legend Tricky has announced his first tour in 8 years. I care though a lot, always about Tricky, near and dear to my heart. Seosin are going on a tour for their 20th anniversary of their self-titled debut.
Is that how you pronounce their name?
Please say it correctly.
No, this is like kind of an ongoing joke. Anthony Green was interviewed on a podcast very recently where they were like, okay, tell us how you say the name. And he basically like the name was supposed to be Seoshin, but it just kind of became Seosin after everybody said it that way. But then I didn't know this. He said that they're like, because I think it's like a Japanese word. I think he said that maybe Seoshin is even the real way to say it. So it's kind of like a meme of how do you really pronounce this band name?
Got it. And remind me, is he going to be singing?
Anthony Green will not be on this tour because they're doing the self-titled record, which is the record that Cove sang on. And he's back singing for the band. They have a new single with him. And Anthony Green is not touring as a member of Seosin or Seoshin or whatever you call them at the moment because but he is busy again, as we very excitedly talked about with Circus Survive, who are what, Dave?
Meanwhile, one of the many acts, they keep announcing shows one by one, and hopefully they'll get to New York soon. But meanwhile, they are one of the many acts just announced on the 2026 edition of Furnace Fest, which this is the fest's first year with a new owner, and they just announced that lineup. I think the ownership change was a little controversial. I don't know. Furnace Fest owners a few months ago issued a statement that they were like kind of bummed to have to sell the fest, but they owed a lot of money, something. Also on the lineup go ahead.
The vibe is a little different too. I think
the vibe of Furnace Fest, the new
lineup,
announcement lineup is is a little more mainstream.
It's kind of got like massive headliners. Yeah, more mainstream headliners for the first time in its existence.
Right. Bring Me the Horizon, who just headlined Madison Square Garden, are headlining One Day, and
A Day to Remember.
A Day to Remember. Who
yeah. But the thing
big
that
in a way
I'm
that's
most
off my
excited
radar.
about on this lineup is Under Oath playing Define the Great Line in full for its 20th anniversary, which is, I think, the best Under Oath record. And I really hope it's a sign that they're going to do it in other places.
And that day one, I think, is that on day one, the Under Oath thing? But that's also the day that has, day one definitely has Circus Survive, but then it's also got like, I'm not really interested in the headliner, but there's enough stuff on there like Haywire and I forget who else. There's like a bunch of bands that I would go that day.
It's an overall cool lineup as it's always been. It's the first year where it's like, whoa, that the headliners are like these, like, last year the headliners were Jimmy Eat World, Dropkick Murphys, and Knocked Loose, who were like all amazing bands that didn't even feel drastically bigger than non-headliners. Like
that's why they owed so much money.
Right.
All right. In totally unrelated news, Weird Al Yankovic has a musical coming to Broadway. The Who's Roger Daltrey has announced a solo tour. Block Party announced an album. So did Show Me the Body. Gene will tour North America for the first time in 24 years around their appearance at California's Darker Waves Fest in November. Eddie Vedder's California-based Ohana Fest has announced its September 2026 lineup, and in addition to Pearl Jam, there will be sets by Tyler Childers, Fontaines DC, Pixies, Rilo Kiley, Sugar, Alabama Shakes, Mana, Billy Idol, Bad Religion, Horse Girl, Eka Vandal, The Front Bottoms, Steven Wilson Jr. It's like that's a cool lineup.
Really cool lineup.
Yeah. Eddie Vedder's got his or whoever's helping him. They really, I don't know.
A lot of that, I'm sure Eddie Vedder was listening to Sugar 30 years ago.
That's true. Pearl Jam are known for great openers.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah. To me, this is like similar to how Foo Fighters always have good openers. Like, it's like Eddie Vedder and Dave Grohl are both sort of like, you can take the kid out of the underground, but not the underground out of the kid, sort of.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. Pixies, again, probably massive influence on Pearl Jam.
It's
but
cool.
Anyway.
They got Rilo Kiley and Sugar on that thing, which Sugar's like, Bill actually talked to Bob Mould about this on the BV Interviews podcast recently, that Sugar was like not really playing a lot of festivals, and like their reunion tour was mainly just bigger club shows. And
maybe it was it was secretly the whole time they reunited for Ohana Fest.
Could be. They're not very high up on the poster, though. Sorry.
But, no, it's probably not that.
Speaking of the Pixies, they have finally announced a vinyl release for their now classic Complete B-Sides release. The name doesn't sound like a classic album, but that is an album had become a Pixies album people care about. And we are stoked to have an exclusive vinyl variant of the new 25th anniversary release, which features 6 live bonus tracks not on the original release and new artwork. I think Brooklyn Vegan Shop, we have like the only kind of exclusive of that one. Go pick up this very special seaweed green vinyl release in the Brooklyn Vegan Shop at shop.brooklynvegan.com. We also just announced today, the band Madball also just announced today, nothing to do, just segueing from Pixies to Madball here on the topic of vinyl. Madball has announced a new album. The New York City hardcore vets have also got an exclusive vinyl variant of that one in the Brooklyn Vegan Shop. So I think that's the news for today. You want to talk some more 1996 albums this week?
Yes.
All right, cool. Let's do it. And let's bring back Bill for this continuing pre-recorded series. Here we go.
So we have talked about emo. We have talked about hip hop. We've talked about indie rock. But you know what we haven't talked about yet? Is ska. And can you really talk about 1996 and not talk about ska?
No.
So I have picked Less Than Jake's Losing Streak, which is, I said at the start of this saga of 1996 albums that some of these things would be albums I have owned on CD for most of my life, and some are things that I got into in the past few years. And this is an album I've owned on CD for most of my life. I probably had this CD when I could maybe count on two hands how many CDs I had. And it's one of my favorite albums of all time. And I think Less Than Jake, I think ska in general has, ska punk in the 90s does not have the best reputation, was often mocked, even more so than emo. Still is more mocked than emo, although it has had a nice little resurgence and some people reevaluating their either falling in love with it for the first time or realizing that they loved it back then and they're still cool with it now in the past few years. But, ska is still sometimes an uphill battle when you're talking to certain music fans, specifically American ska punk. Usually people are cool with two-tone and the Jamaican ska. In any case, Less Than Jake have a silly sounding name. They played a maligned style of music. They have a goofy mascot. It is very easy to not take this band seriously. But I take Less Than Jake very seriously. I think that Chris DeMakes and Roger Lima are an unbelievable songwriting duo. I think whether they chose to play, fast ska punk, but whatever genre they would have chosen to play, I think that would come through. They have such beautiful melodies. They have so much emotion in their deliveries and their lyrics. Sometimes people like, whatever you make fun of ska for being, I don't think Less Than Jake have ever done any of those things. I think in general, with a lot of the kind of 90s skate punk and adjacent things, something that really sticks out to me is just like how good these melodies were for so many of these bands. I mean, earlier we were talking about the Descendants and Bad Religion and early AFI, and a lot of it just on the surface, it comes down to the speed, the short songs, the circle pits. But like, to me, so many of these bands were just like really, really strong melodic songwriting, and Less Than Jake's Losing Streak is some of the strongest in the context of, pretty much not polished at all sounding, again, not traditionally skilled singing, lots of just, kind of maybe a little off key yelping and shouting, and, the music's pretty raw. But yeah, I just think the songwriting at the core of it is great. And this was their major label debut. It was on Capitol. Fun fact, this came out on Capitol the same year as Jimmy Eat World Static Prevails, which we already talked about. And Capitol had Jimmy Eat World and Less Than Jake do a split together. I think just kind of like a promotional, we are Capitol Records, and we've signed these two vaguely punk bands. Hilarious in hindsight. Probably was hilarious then too, but especially in hindsight, when you look at just what kind of band Jimmy Eat World and what kind of band Less Than Jake, you would never put them on a split, I don't think. So it's fun. It's like a funny fun fact that like this was the post Green Day Dookie boom of major labels just scooping up anything related to pop punk. And so you've got Jimmy Eat World doing their version of Midwest emo, and then you've got Less Than Jake doing ska infused skate punk, and they were like, yeah, those bands should be on a split together. But yeah, I will say, I really do think that this is an album I feel like, if I sound defensive, I think it's a record I feel the need to fight for, because I don't think it has the automatic, like, oh yeah, that's obviously a classic record I should listen to, like Pinkerton or, like DJ Shadow. So I think if you've never heard Less Than Jake's Losing Streak, if you turn your nose up at ska punk, try it anyway. I think you might be surprised at the energy, the melody, the emotion. There's so much to this record. I can't imagine Dave or Bill have much to add, but if there's anything you want to say.
I will say that I have a pretty strong aversion to 90s ska and ska punk, but I don't hate Less Than Jake. I remember, I think Automatic, there was a video for that, and it was on sort of regular rotation on 120 minutes. And as far as that sort of stuff, I preferred that to Bowling for Soup or whoever, else was of a similar thing on MTV at the time.
Bowling for Soup were pop punk, but not ska.
Okay.
But Let's Go Bowling was ska. I don't know.
Who did Sell Out?
Real Big Fish.
Okay, Real Big Fish. That's who I was thinking of, I guess.
I mean, Real Big Fish are sort of like, I think when most people, I have respect for Real Big Fish, but they sort of epitomize what most people think they're making fun of when they're making fun of American third wave ska. That's cool. Automatic is track 1 on this record. I think it's an amazing song.
It's true. I don't have much to say in this, but so I'll just like come up with some fun fact. You mentioned how crazy it was that Less Than Jake and Jimmy Eat World had a split around this time, both bands that have appeared in our series here of great 1996 albums. You also earlier talked about Descendants coming back in 1996 with what was essentially a return / not quite reunion new lineup album that we also loved, and we debated whether the Descendants were cool. Anyway, what does it mean then that in 1997, Descendants and Less Than Jake went on a tour together called the Caffeine Nation Tour?
It means that's exactly the kind of thing that would have happened in 1997. Yeah, I mean, like the, Fat Records, Asian Man Records, Epitaph Records world of skate punk and similar types of catchy 90s punk. That's where the Descendants and Less Than Jake both lived. The difference is that the Descendants had been doing it for 15 years.
Right. So then if we're debating the cool thing and we look back at that, I'm like, oh, maybe the Descendants were not cool. Or I'm like, oh, wait, maybe Less Than Jake
were cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Other bands on that tour, Guttermouth, Handsome, and Tree.
I definitely spent a lot of time listening to Guttermouth, and I don't know the other two bands. But I will also say, big honorable mention, was hard to choose. Well, it was easy to choose because Losing Streak's my favorite ska punk record. But it was hard to choose because of how good the other one is. Suicide Machine's Destruction by Definition also came out in 96. Also one of the best ska punk records ever. I mean, 96 was a huge year for ska punk, but just between Losing Streak and Destruction by Definition, those records really, really defined that genre. And I do think, like, I like Less Than Jake a lot. Again, I really come back to this. It really comes back to the melody for me. I just think that they are essentially like great pop songwriters who just happen to play ska punk, skate punk. Suicide Machines are definitely a ska punk band you could like if you like punk but don't like ska punk. They're much harder. There's a Minor Threat cover on that record. I think it's on that record. But like, they're like, Suicide Machines are a band that you could be into hardcore and like, even if you don't usually listen to ska. And Destruction by Definition is like a total game-changing landmark record. So at least 2 big ska punk records from 96. Probably more if I go a bit down the rabbit hole, but those are both huge ones.
Okay, this is really weird. All right, not long after they toured with Descendants, they then did a tour with Toasters, Ska Against Racism tour. Toasters were like a big band for me, actually. Even if I wasn't into the ska punk at the time, I like had previous phase with Toasters, almost randomly in retrospect, but I just love them. But then in 2000, do you know about this one? Can you guess who Less Than Jake toured with in the year 2000? They were the sole opener on a stadium band tour.
Bon Jovi.
Oh, you cheated.
No,
by knowing it already.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Less Than Jake posted 5 years ago, actually, they posted the poster. They're like, nope, this is not photoshopped. Yes, we were the sole opening act on Bon Jovi's Crush tour in November 2000. We can't even begin to tell you the insanity that ensued during the shindig. It would take up to 100 posts.
Yeah, it's hilarious that happened.
That is weird. Bill.
Yeah.
Up next for you, speaking of Bon Jovi. Oh, wait.
Aphex Twins, Richard D. James.
Hell yeah.
Going from, this is probably the biggest 360 that we've done on our 1996 list so far. Aphex Twin is just one of these, I don't know. All his records still sound like they're from another universe, and you just can't understand how they were made, why somebody would do what they did. This is, I guess, the fourth official Aphex Twin record, but he released music under a bunch of different aliases. This is, to me, one of those, I call it like a beautiful nightmare record, that it's scary, but also like draws you in, and it's pretty at times. And that, that's from the album art, which he's sort of glowering at you on the album cover. And there's clearly been some like distortion done like on the photo. It's really creepy if you stare at it for too long, right into the music. And it's wild to think that he made this record almost entirely on his Macintosh, like just his like home computer. The computing power to do that, in 1996 on a home Macintosh. He must have like had to restart his computer and save like after every song or something. I don't know. It's also a kind of record. This was during the peak of what they called IDM, which was a snobby way of saying dance, electronic dance music for people who don't normally dance. But in this case, I think it's sort of fitting because I listened to this album and other Aphex Twins records, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm smart enough to fully understand what's going on here and appreciate it, but I'm still drawn in. It still sounds like nothing else. And as weird as it is, though, I feel like there's not a lack of melody here. Like he comes up with beautiful, memorable passages. It's all just squashed in with like the drill and bass thing that he sort of helped pioneer, which was like glitchy jungle and drum and bass beats, but just turned up to 11. I like a lot of his records. I think maybe Drugs and like Selected Ambient Works Volume 2 are probably the ones I go to the most, but this has a lot of memorable stuff on it. And Dave, I'm going to guess you probably listened to Aphex Twin like in the moment.
Yes, and I do love Aphex Twin. I do love this album. I think my most listened to Aphex Twin is probably the first Selected Ambient Works album, but also I wouldn't say that I was fully aware of all the different Aphex Twin albums in real time as much as just like the existence of Aphex Twin in real time, and also him playing / DJing at raves or whatever parties. I mean, it wasn't like super common, I guess, but I do because he's from the UK, but he was just kind of an artist I knew at the time. And I guess what I'm trying to say, because we've said this theme a lot, it wasn't until later years that I really started to be like, oh, these are all the Aphex Twin albums. These are considered the best techno, electronic, drill and bass, whatever, IDM, whatever genre you want to call them, dance music. And now I'm just used to it, of course, but it wasn't as much a real time. Like Andrew asked earlier about DJ Shadow. When did you realize DJ Shadow was canon the way I don't know when I realized that about Aphex Twin, but now Aphex Twin, it can't be like stressed enough how if Aphex Twin mysteriously drops a track even now, like the respect, the kind of legend status he has, it's just going to be amazing. The mystery of Aphex Twin too.
Exactly. That's a huge thing that you don't really get anymore, is that nobody knew anything about Aphex Twin, really. This was still pretty much pre-internet in like a major way. You couldn't look up anything, and there was no YouTube, and he was just this, all you had was either the album covers or his sometimes equally, if not more disturbing music videos, like Come to Daddy and Window Licker, both made by Chris Cunningham, are two of the strangest, scariest, funniest videos ever made. But yeah, you just had the music and what you saw on the album cover, and then you had to try to imagine what kind of person actually made these records.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking back. I mean, to clarify, because I did say he played around a lot, and then you're saying nobody knew who he was. We're both right. I don't remember exactly how that played out. Like I'm looking, he played Limelight in 1992. These are the kind, he played a lot of dates with Jamiroquai in the early 90s.
Okay, that's wild.
And with Orbital, with Moby, these were like kind of the shows I was going to. He did a tour of the US, North America in 93 called See the Light Tour. Played New York Coliseum in October 1993. So anyway, yeah. Keep going, Andrew.
My most played Aphex Twin record is the first Selected Ambient Works. And it says right in the title, Selected Ambient Works 85 to 92. And like, Bill, you mentioned Aphex Twin always sounded like he's from a different universe. I mean, I feel like one thing with electronic music is even the most important records sometimes do quickly sound dated because it has so much to do with the technology changing. Mm-hmm. And so I first heard Selected Ambient Works, the first one, like, I don't know, 15, 20 years after it came out. And I just like, this still sounds futuristic. Like, and it's especially mind blowing because I'm like, you really mean to tell me some of this was recorded in 1985?
Yeah.
You know, like it still sounds like if that record dropped right now in 2026, there would be reviews using the word futuristic at points. So,
Dave, you mentioned liking Orbital, like they toured with. You said they toured with Orbital. He toured with Orbital.
You definitely would play raves / events with Orbital. I didn't just check if they fully toured, but yeah, they appeared on bills a lot. And oh man, I loved Orbital at the time as well.
I was going to say 1996 was a pretty, it was a big time for like UK techno and dance music in general. This year also gave us Square Pushers, Feed Me Weird Things, Orbital's Insides, and Underworld's Second Toughest of the Infants. So it's a good year for electronic dance music in general.
Definitely.
Thanks for tuning in. Dave and I will be back every Friday morning with new episodes of BV Weekly. And in between the episodes, you can always get much more from us at BrooklynVegan.com, on all of our social media, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You can pick up records from us at shop.brooklynvegan.com. And if you like what you hear, tell your friends about us, subscribe to the show, give us a good rating. All that little stuff goes a really long way. It really helps us a lot, and we really appreciate it. So until then, thank you again, and see you next time.